You're with me, it's alright. Together, all our lives, a new star is inside. We're falling, it feels right. It's okay to hold me. You know where I wanna be. It's okay to hold me.
Hello everybody, it's October 5th, 2020, and this is the launch of the fall season of the PromoHomo.TV network with this, the season premiere of The Nicholas Snow Show. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I am just so excited. PromoHomo.TV expanded into a full-fledged online broadcast network over the summer with 33 episodes, and today I launch a 10-week, 5-series, up to 50 episode season. And I'm opening the show a bit differently because, as you just saw in the opening video, there are many ways that I'm asking you for your support. I've basically been volunteering for the last 6 months, and I am prepared to volunteer for another year building PromoHomo.TV into a force for global good. And there are many ways you can help, and a lot of them are absolutely free. So simply view your favorite episodes and share them with your friends. Subscribe to my social media. If you have a business that wants to advertise on the network, reach out to me. But I've launched a Patreon page that you'll be seeing a lot and hearing a lot about, and that is a page that will allow you to subscribe to my network for as little as $3 a month. It's actually not my network, it's our network. And as I've mentioned before, my mission is connecting the circuitry of humanity, and PromoHomo.TV is creating programming for LGBTQ plus everyone. So that's that business out of the way. In today's episode, I'm so honored to be featuring two of my favorite people from the LGBT Community Center of the Desert, and I'll be back with them right after this. You may have noticed that I now have some sign language, American Sign Language happening in my opening videos. And for those of you that are not familiar with ASL, basically the communication is that my shows are available with subtitles on the YouTube channel and at PromoHomo.TV. I want to make my program as accessible as possible. Many of you might be aware of my podcast that existed for 4 years, and I recently looked and I've had 1.7 million listens, and I'm excited to say that you can now listen to PromoHomo.TV on all of your favorite podcast platforms. By the way, if you happen to sign up for my Patreon during a live broadcast and I get the notification, I'll announce your name on the show, if not the next live broadcast. We do have live viewers, and Rick says, "Hi, Nicholas." He's an avid viewer and author, and my friend, filmmaker, musician. I think that she's saying, "I sure will," in terms of perhaps supporting Patreon, but whatever she's saying she's going to do, thank you. With that in mind, I'm going to bring onto the show Mike Thompson and Lex Ortega, the team members from the LGBT Community Center of the Desert. Welcome!
Thanks, Nicholas. Great to see you.
Nice to see both of you. So, Mike, I was joking with you and Lex backstage because the last time Lex was on my show, someone else didn't show up, and I subjected Lex to one of the most intense on-camera live interviews that they have ever had. Would you agree, Lex?
Yeah, I was basically charged with solving world peace, I think.
Listen, if anybody can do it, Lex is the person.
Yeah, right.
Yes. Now, the most timely thing we're going to talk about is the storytelling project, which is a video project, and it's timely because this broadcast is live on Monday, October 5th, and this whole project kicks off with your newsletter, which goes out on Thursdays. If I didn't mention it at the top of the show, and both of you know this, one of your missions with the LGBT Community Center of the Desert is creating vibrant community, and mine is connecting the circuitry of humanity. So I feel like we're such a great fit in terms of our media partnership. So I couldn't be more honored. And just as I'm engaged in storytelling, often other people's stories via video, I cannot wait to hear more about this. So who wants to start us out with further details, Mike or Lex?
Well, Nicholas, I want to jump in first and congratulate you on the expansion of your work. And I think what you do is so aligned with what we do at the LGBTQ Community Center of the Desert, which we'll talk about in a bit. So it's so important for us to have meaningful partnerships such as yours. And we just want to congratulate you on the exceptional work that you do and the expansion of that work into this new platform. So all the best to you as you step into this, Nicholas.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, and so I'll give you a little bit of a teaser, and then I'll let Lex, because she can solve world peace, so she can address the storytelling project. But the idea behind this, Nicholas, is at the root of what we do at the center in this idea of creating vibrant community is really about creating connection points. And certainly over these last several months, that's been an increased challenge when we're asked to create physical distance from one person to the next. So we've needed to get innovative in how we do our work. And so we felt it important to tell the stories of our work so that people could begin to identify what are the connection points that are currently available in engaging with the center so that we can create community in this new environment in which we're living and working.
Well, very well stated. Anything you want to add to that, Lex?
Yeah, I just want to revisit, we're launching this actually on Wednesday. So Wednesdays are when our general newsletter go out to the community. And I was talking about this morning because every Monday we have what's known as a social caring during the quarantine sort of, I guess, peer support discussion group. And we were talking about how do we use these tools of technology to amplify and re-energize the humanity that we have, right? Because sometimes it can be, especially as folks associated with organizations, you want we all know what an organizational email or message might be, right? Even reflecting back on the pandemic and thinking about, any company or any organization that ever had your email address, suddenly you were getting emails from them about their response to the pandemic. And I think what's special about what we do at the center is we even take a look at that language, right? We could have easily said, like, due to unforeseen circumstances, the center is now closed to the public. And in reality, we're all like, what the F is going on, right? So how do we communicate in a very real human way? Because at the end of the day, the LGBTQ Community Center is made up of human beings. And it is as much our center as human beings as it is the folks that we are trying to show up for every day. And I think that's part of what we hope will come across during the storytelling project.
One of the things that I've been so impressed at with the two of you is that the center and your leadership and your whole leadership team really adapted quite quickly to the pandemic in terms of onlining some of most of your programs online, expanding your food bank operation. And also, one of the things that so impresses me is your ongoing needs assessments that you're doing and rising to meet those needs. Mike, are you surprised at how effective the center has been and at this transformation?
I'm actually not, Nicholas, and I appreciate your reflecting that back to us about how nimble we've been and how quick to respond. And I can say that is due directly to the approach that we take. All of our work at every level across the organization is built on relationship, right? And I think oftentimes in our busy lives, we can become transactional, right? These are the things that we need to do in order to accomplish X number of things in any given day. And so what we continually remind ourselves at the center is that what's most important is the person or persons in front of us, whether that's in person or now virtually. And what is the need of the moment call for, and how do we respond to that? And so really viewing it through a relationship lens and cultivating, sustaining and building upon relationships rather than just getting stuff done, right? Because we could have taken the transactional approach and then been very logical about, like, how do we move from in-person programming to online programming, and what would be the kind of the analysis to determine which programs we do that with first. And we really just followed our hearts and let it be organic, and people have come along with us. In fact, in our first 2 months of our fiscal year, we're counting our touch points differently now than a year ago, but we're already up 1,500 touch points with our clients than we were a year ago, because people need contact in a different way than what they did a year ago. So I'm so proud of our team at every level in every department, the way each one of them have jumped in to say, here's what I believe we need to address our relationships in this segment of our community. And the numbers kind of then speak for themselves. So thrilled about that. Lex, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, before you add to that, Lex, so I know you're doing some rebranding, and I know some of your social media is now the Center CV. Is your website still the centerps.org?
No, it is the centercv.org. So for the Center Coachella Valley, to really better represent the scope of our work, which extends well beyond the 2 Palm Springs zip codes across the desert, to the work that we're doing specifically under Lex's leadership in the East Valley with Miguel Navarro alongside them, doing really important work. And we felt like the Center CV, and thank you for popping that up on the screen, better captures who we are as an organization and the scope of our work across our desert communities.
And who we want, and I'll just say, like, who we want to be too, right? Because the reality is, like, the center as an organization still has very strong roots to Palm Springs, and there's a deep understanding in our organization that the folks that live in Palm Springs are not the breadth and the entirety of what it means to be LGBTQ. We have varied experiences, varied lives, and so how do we fulfill a promise that we want to deliver on? So very much forward looking, as much as present.
So talk about your broader rebranding technically. I know that your social media, a lot of it is now the Center CV instead of the Center PS. We now know the website has changed, and you're adding the Q?
We are adding the Q, and I think Lex can speak to that so much more eloquently than I. So I'm going to defer to Lex.
Take it away, Lex. I'm going to make you full screen for this.
Okay.
Take it away.
Sometimes I think being as a self-identified millennial, I'm 33. Sometimes I observe what happens out in the communities that I have close proximity to, and I just feel like things move a little bit slower here, and maybe that's just a function of we're surrounded by nature. Maybe it's also a function of just the population that is here. But I know for myself, right, when we think about identity and how we identify ourselves as part of this like non-straight, heterosexual, cisgender community, I've been identifying as queer actively since 2007, probably. So about 13 years, right? And I've also had periods of time in my life where I've identified as L. I preferred G, right, to describe myself as a gay woman, and also B as in bisexual, right? And that's just my own lived experience. Everyone else has a different relationship to those terms. But I've settled into Q now for, almost 13 years. And I think it's also important for me as a person who is living through the world in 2020 now with the recognition that, I didn't have that word, specifically queer, hurled at me in ways that were harmful. I was part of a generation where we were actively taking back that word. And so when I talk to other folks within and outside of our community, it's important for me to acknowledge that history, that deep history, and that for some folks, that word will never be home. And that is completely valid and true. And that is not my experience. Queer has been home for me as long as I have come into my, adulthood. And I think for a lot of younger folks too, there's that sensibility as well. And then we add on to the fact that for some folks who are questioning any part of their romantic or gender identity or sexual orientation, questioning is a specific period of time. And for some people, it might last like a really long time. And so how do we make more space for folks that are just recognizing that the heterosexual normative realities of what it means to live in the United States right now doesn't fit all of us, right? And then I know for some folks, like queer doesn't just mean like who we love or who we're attracted to or who we have a spiritual connection with. It also means that's the lens through which they look at the entire world, sometimes with regards to politics. So how can we make more space for that while also simultaneously holding with care the folks that have been here for longer than I've been alive, that have been out longer than I've been alive, right? That have really struggled and lived through horrible periods of prejudice and violence and discrimination, but also have witnessed amazing moments of beauty and community and joy. So that's a little bit about that.
And Nicholas, I think one of the things gosh, Lex is still one of I love to just sit at her feet and listen to the wisdom that she speaks. I learn from her so often. But, she mentioned, I'm at home with the term queer, right? And so that really is the vibe that we want to create at the center, right? And by adding the Q, we're acknowledging to people that, like Lex, identify or feel at home with the term queer. So by adding the Q, the LGBTQ Community Center of the Desert, already we're letting people know that we're home for you. We can be home for you. We get you, we see you, we value you. You have a place here, where maybe somebody had to work to get into the LGBT part, right? The Q, for those people that it is home for, they see themselves already. And again, back to creating points of connection. By adding the Q, we're already extending our hand, saying we're here ready to make connection with you because we see you.
I'm getting sort of emotional because of connection, which is a good thing, and emotion is a good thing. It indicates our humanity. Lex, you mentioned you're 33. What year were you born in?
1987.
Okay, so I wanted to just share with both of you, you may not know this, but in 1993, I founded and produced for 7 years a public access show in the LA market called Tinseltown's Queer, which I described as a Queen's version of Larry King, with a theme song, and it was and remains a very powerful body of work, and it is headed in its archival form to the one archives at the USC libraries, including the episode you're in right now. My entire life's work is going to end up there. So I love it, Lex, that you were talking about being part of a generation that's taking back the word queer. And, we're always part of a generation that's doing something that's really important. And in a way, it's like we're all in the same moment universally. And there is even no concept of time. In sort of a spiritual sense, is we're all in the same moment at any given time.
Yeah, it can be quite humbling for me to think about my positionality to like the ancestors, the people who have come before me, right? Sometimes if I think too much about, I'm a Pisces, so I'm thinking in my head a lot, right? And sometimes I've had moments where I look at that year that I was born, 1987, right? And that is at the height of the HIV and AIDS crisis. And sometimes I wonder, because I think my parents and my family felt pretty removed from what was happening, even though we know that HIV affects humans, period. It doesn't matter how you identify. But sometimes I wonder, this is a little bit woo-woo, but I'll own it right now.
Woo-woo right away. I think you're in good company with the three of us.
But like being born in that year, I wonder what sort of energy, maybe kind of channeled or like funneled its way into my being. Because I think about, I can't spend too much time thinking about it because I also get really emotional. I can feel my body just tingling, but like all the people that we lost because of specifically HIV AIDS, with the understanding that we've lost people in our community from other things of violence, but specifically from that virus, right? And all the great minds and artists and hearts and spirits that we lost. And it feels kind of cool to know that I was born in that year. And in terms of how I feel, I'm honoring those people by the work that I do now. And I would hope that maybe my spirit or my energy or my essence maybe soaked up some of that goodness that we just lost. We lost too much of.
Mike, would you like to add anything to that?
No, other than yeah, I just want to say, Lex, I believe you did. As one who gets to bear witness to your life, and I think that same energy is my turn for woo woo. I guess is I think that same energy is swirling around and available to those of us that want to give it our attention, right? If we turn toward that energy, then that energy can transform us. And not only can it transform us, it can move us to action, right? And I believe that those of us that take responsibility for noticing it and then turning toward it and then allowing the transformation to happen, I think we have a responsibility to then act on that. And then I believe that then we, in whatever increments it happens, we can then affect change, kind of empowered with that same energy, right? And I see that work that, and I'm so humbled by the work that Lex and Miguel are doing in the eastern part of the valley, because it is, as Lex mentioned, it is very different work than the work we're doing in the western part of the valley in Palm Springs, right? It's very different, and it is plowing ground there, right? I mean, it is turning over the soil to just prime the soil for the work that is still waiting to be done. And they have built some amazing partnerships there. And then just quickly back to this storytelling project, that's what this is about, right? Is us being able to turn back to the community and say that we're doing this around food insecurity. We're doing this around behavioral health issues. We're doing this around issues of isolation and loneliness during a pandemic when we're asked to quarantine. We're doing this and how we think about creating community. And we're doing this in the east part of the valley. Because so what we're doing is that same thing about gathering our collective energy, right? So that we can all move this work forward. Because Nicholas, you think about this, we met 6.5 years ago when we were still in the Sun Center, and there was, 3 full-time people on staff at the center, right?
And I had never broadcast a live video on my phone.
Right. And so look how far we've come in 6.5 years and the reach that we have. It's because we're gathering energy, and that's part of vibrancy, right? When we talk about vibrant community, it's not just this wonderful catchphrase, right? Vibrant community is there is action and movement, and it's dynamic, right? And so when you gather vibrant community together, then there's going to be action and movement. And you can see that in the way that this work is progressing, the talent that is being attracted to this work across the valley. We're super excited, and maybe we can come back and talk more specifically about our work in the East Valley, but I'll not steal the thunder on that. But we're talking about very specific leadership programs to identify, well, we've really already identified some local leaders, but grooming the leadership there for employed work there, right? So they can then continue to gather energy so that work there gets the same type of momentum. But at the same time, the center is being an employer. We are paying, a good wage with benefits and to really, give back to the community at the same time we're growing leaders within the community. So exciting stuff. And so we're thrilled to be able to tell our own story. I think we've frankly been very humble. And I think now we're taking that humility and letting it fuel how we tell the story of our work.
Well, I just want to revisit some of the official language that the center developed around the storytelling project, because I think it's really powerful. And then both of you can elaborate on it if you'd like. And I also do know there's a fundraising component, and there are still people in our community that have the ability to give. So I'd love for you to explain that as well. The center states, your team states, in this time of physical distance and social isolation, we desperately want to shout from the mountaintops, we're here for you. You are not alone. Meaningful connection is waiting for you right around the corner at the center. We live it daily to meet our mission of helping LGBTQ people along their way. Beloved community is the home we want every LGBTQ person to experience. So we are launching We're Here For You, our video storytelling project to reach our community, our virtual version of Shouting from the Mountaintops. Every week from October 7th through November 11th, 2020, we'll be premiering a new video in our newsletters and on social media to let folks know how we're wrapping our virtual arms around the people who need connection most. Help us make these virtual connections viral by sharing with your friends and your much-loved community. During this really challenging time, you might be the conduit to connect someone to our programs, to our expanded work across the Coachella Valley, and maybe help someone find a friend for a lifetime. And you have a fabulous official logo that I want to just show off there. We're here for you. At the center. Can you tell I've hosted some television?
You got skills, Nicholas. You got skills.
Now, talk about the fundraising component for those who are in a position to give. And I know that's not a huge essential part of it, but it does exist.
Yeah, well, and we I want to focus less on the fundraising piece, Nicholas, because I really appreciate that. People can find ways to donate at thecentercv.org. You can click the donate button, but we really do want to focus on the storytelling aspect of this first, because that is I've got to say I appreciate your reading that text back, because where it takes me is back in March when we were first asked to stay home. And one of the first things that we did on staff is we took our entire database, we divided it up so that everyone on staff was emailing somebody, like list hundreds of people, right? So everybody had a point of contact. And then we followed up in a week or so, and Lex, who's responsible for our newsletter, along with Barry Jones on our team, do an excellent job every week of creating that content, but began asking questions, right? And one of the questions that we asked is, do you have somebody to talk to every day? And then the people that said no, one, it just still gets me emotional, we then gave them a safe entry point by then followed up and said, would you like somebody to talk to? And not everybody said yes, but those that did say yes, I personally called those people. And the shortest amount of time I was on the phone with any one person may have been 25 minutes. Most of the calls averaged 30 to 45 minutes. And you could hear the fear, the loneliness, the anxiety of needing someone to connect to. And that's when we really began to frame out this, we're here for you. We pulled that out of our mission statement of helping LGBTQ people along their way, and then actually said, what that boils down to is we are here for you. And so that's the heart of this storytelling project. And like I said, for each week over these next 6 weeks, we're going to focus on ways that we are here for our community. And the beauty is we learn from our community all the time, ways that we can be there for them. And so that we try to respond and create, whether it's programming content or just points of contact or resources that we can refer out to. So it really is a dynamic program. And so that's really what's at the heart of this. And so I wanted to focus on that piece of it and not the fundraising piece, because I think at a time when we're all concerned about our own well-being, our physical well-being, right, our financial well-being, I don't want this to be transactional. right? I want this to reflect at the very core our relationship. And you've seen the phenomenal growth that we've experienced as an organization. And our fundraising strategy has been do our job, tell our story, and let people respond, because they see consistently what we're producing in this creating vibrant community. And I really do believe, I had a mentor show me once the infinity sign, like in number 8 on its side. It's this mutual exchange of goodwill. We do what the community has charged us to do, and then the community will give back to us, right? And that's proven out for us, and that's our, that's the peek behind the curtain in our fundraising strategy. We do what we're purposed to do, and we trust that our community will respond in kind, and they do.
Well, that's very well stated, and thank you for sharing all of that. And I know that you come from a place of love and heart and light, and I'm so happy to be in this vibrant community with you. The nice thing about being the producer of my own show is I can have it last as long as I wanted to. We don't have to go on forever, but I would love to know if there's anything else about what your team is doing that either one of you would like to speak about as we're in the home stretch of the show.
Yeah, I'll just say a few words about the scope of some of what we're doing, right? We're here for you, plain and simple. Sometimes for some people, that means we're here for you temporarily, right? For some people, they might not be interested in showing up on Zoom because, let's be honest, Zoom fatigue is real, right? But a person might be having a particularly hard day, a particularly hard month, or a particularly hard couple of weeks, and just feel like I need to be welcomed with open arms amongst my people, right? And so for some people, we're here for you translates into we're here for you on this day if you need a safe place to feel your feelings and know that it's okay to feel your feelings. And for some people, it might be we're here for you if you need, if you're interested in strengthening and building up your own resiliency in terms of getting connected to a therapist, right? Or we're here for you because right now you need access to food. And so there are different ways that we can do that. And then sometimes it's like, we're here for you, even if we don't know the answer, right? A lot of times we get messages and emails from folks that have really specific requests. And it's like, okay, we don't do that because the center can't be all things to everyone, but we will hold your hand while we help you look, right? And sometimes I've had experiences where it's like, I don't even see the answers, right? But it's that holding of the hand. And it's like, here's where we're at. Here's, what I know we don't have. How are you doing? How is this issue just affecting you, right? And just telling people that, like, we care. Even if some of these really, really hard issues, like, we can't solve on our own, right? They're really systemic issues around economic inequality, around systemic racism, right? All of these things that require all of us. But I think we're here for you in a nutshell is like, we see you in the entirety of your humanity, and we will do our best to hold your hand while, we work out the immediate things that you might need. And to Mike's point, right? We don't spend a lot of time like talking about the work because we are often doing the work, right? And like he said, the person right in front of us is the most important person. And sometimes I feel, and I wrote this in an email the other week, sometimes I feel like the folks that are attracted to us at the center really are looking for that type of like heart-to-heart connection, right? Because we all have social media, we all have Facebook, there's these like dozens of Facebook groups centered around LGBTQ identity. Politics is a thing, right? We're all commenting on each other's stuff, but it's a very different experience to one, be in person with one another, but since we can't really do that, to sit on Zoom or hear someone's voice and actually have that time to receive some of the energy that we can't get from reading words on a screen.
I just
And,
want
and Nicholas,
to go ahead.
I would just like to add one thing, and I'll try to be brief. Is, Lex said, sometimes it's not readily available to us, so we have to go looking for it, and sometimes it's even within. And so this summer we saw the opportunity that we need to be better about taking a stand and being a true anti-racist organization, so that Black and Indigenous people of color in our community know, back to the idea of home, that they have a home at the center. So we are doing comprehensive anti-racism training over the next 11 months as an organization, both at the staff and the board level, so that we can truly be, anti-racist. So that when we say Black Lives Matter, you can look back behind us and see that we can demonstrate that based on the decisions that we're making and the actions that we're taking. And so sometimes we're learning right alongside of the community, so that we can be that for the community. And so, and I'm proud of us that we're willing to be that, rather than just to defer or issue a statement, or that we really take the integrity of it all to heart, so that we can live out what our mission is.
Certainly, being an anti-racist, it's more than a hashtag, and there's so much work to be done. And my whole network was launching in the wake of the horrid murders of Black men in our country, and so I have personally been engaging in that work. And the more I engage, the more I realize I've barely scratched the surface of what I need to do for my personal transformation, which is sad, but it's important for us for me to know to what extent I'm part of the problem, so I can be part of the solution. Before you brought up that point, I wanted to just feed back to both of you that as a recipient of your newsletter, I do feel like I'm connected when I have the opportunity to answer the questions in your newsletter. I also feel grateful because I know that almost every single time I'm getting the newsletter, I don't have an urgent need. I think I'm on Lex's list, though, because when I did respond that I wanted or needed something, it was Lex who was looking out for me and checking in. I'm also, quite connected with Desert AIDS Project, and benefit from similar services they offer, which is why I am in a good place and didn't need to rely additionally on your organization, although you have a completely different set of purposes. And I'm so glad that I get to work with you and for our community. So just know that I am personally part of the community that you serve, and grateful for it.
Thank you, Nicholas.
Love that you are, Nicholas.
Thank
And
you.
we love you and appreciate your welcoming us into your space. And it's an honor to be your first guest in the launch of this new part of your venture. So thank you for that.
Yes, the fall season and the first announcement of my Patreon page. It's going to be more comfortable to say this to the two of you rather than speak directly to my audience, because but the reason that I put together that opening video, and a lot of the same information is in the closing video, is I want to just do what I do for the next year. I want to produce this content. I want to become a force for a global good. I want to connect the circuitry of humanity. I want to shine the spotlight on hundreds, if not thousands, of people. And I let people know they can support me financially. They can become an advertiser. If they're looking for an actor, they can consider casting me. I put it all out there. And my confident belief is that really all I have to do is sit here in the studio producing this show, making a difference for the world, and everything will happen naturally and come full circle.
I believe that too, Nicholas.
Yep.
I believe that too.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you both, and I'm going to put up your website again, and I look forward to that time when we can be together again in the real world. But I do know that, and I believe this literally, we are definitely consistently connected with a white light that's very real and very present and pervasive, and probably some rainbow colors in there as well. Actually,
All the colors.
white is all the colors. Yes.
Right.
So, thank you so much for everything, both of you.
Thank you so much.
Nicholas.
Okay,
You're
be well.
welcome. Oh, there you go. I'll see you next time. Bye bye. For those of you at home, thank you so much for tuning in to the season premiere, the fall season premiere of PromoHomo.TV. And Lex and Mike, if you're not completely tired of me, I'll touch bases with you right after the live broadcast ends. And for those of you at home, here's how you can help expand PromoHomo.TV.
You're with me, it's alright. Together, all our lives, a new star is inside. We're falling.